Good evening. My name is Bob Gallagher, and I'm chairman of the Plan and Zone Commission meeting. Welcome you all here. Roll call, please.
Andrews?
Here.
Bennett?
Here.
Gallagher?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Purdue? Rafferty?
Here.
Stoltenberg?
Here.
You've all received minutes via email or otherwise for the July 19, 2006 meeting. Do I have any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. As I said, this is the Plan and Zone Commission meeting for August 16th, 2006. We are a recommending body to the City Council. We consider rezoning requests, preliminary and final plats, site plan development, landscape plans, and plan unit developments, and other matters properly before us in order to make our recommendations. We are interested in your input, and we would ask that after we've had an opportunity to review the matter up here, I will look to the audience, and if anyone would like to address us, I'd ask that you go to the podium in the back and state who you are and what your concerns are or your input is into the matter before us. The reason for that is so it can be picked up in the system and we can have a record of what people have had to say. The next item is case 06060. It's my understanding that that's going to be deferred until the September 20th, 2006 meeting. Is that correct, Bill?
May I address the commission on that?
Yes, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Cusack are looking at moving a substantial drainage easement within the confines of their property. They've contacted an engineer to do some calculation for them, in addition to draw up a plat. They've been dealing with this for probably a couple of months. Staff had some conversations on Friday with both the engineer and the Cusacks. We decided to put this on the agenda, hoping that the issues of the drainage easement would be resolved before tonight's meeting. And according to our city engineer, that has not happened.
Okay. So we'll defer that until the next meeting then? Would you like to address this, Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just ask staff what problems that they had with it probably today. I was one addressed previously, or that one of the cases would be deferred until after this meeting, as long as those were cleared up prior to the city council.
Well, certainly that's up to the Plan and Zone Commission. What we're looking at as far as deficiencies in the submittal documents are drainage calculations supporting not only the width and the shape of the drainage channel itself, but also the downstream storm sewer systems and what actually they're capable of handling. We have some possible neighbor drainage issues, drainage easement issues. It looks like, according to the plan, that part of that excavation is on the neighboring property. There's also a question of the double ditch situation and whether or not we can either eliminate that situation if the 36-inch culvert can handle everything, or use it as an overflow situation. In other words, using the 36 and overflow into the 24 when needed. Those are essentially the drainage issues that we're looking at.
And these issues were brought to my attention.
I'm not sure exactly when they were brought to your attention, but we had a meeting with your engineer today. Mm-hmm.
The neighbors to my north are present. They're available to be heard on the matter. It was indicated to me that the drainage calculations, that it would be satisfactory if those were provided answers. Regarding the overflow into the other culvert, this ditch changes none of that from what it is currently. The current situation is that my deck is being eroded away and it's presenting a safety issue. Again, we're not talking about building the Panama Canal here. It's a drainage ditch. This has been nothing but problems for me. been nothing but added costs to me, and now you're requesting more, another deferment of this issue for another month, correct?
What I'm saying, sir, is that we don't have sufficient information that I feel comfortable making a recommendation to the Plan and Zone Commission. And again, it's certainly up to the Plan and Zone Commission if they want to approve subject to.
And I do agree with you, Mr. Snyder. However, as of this morning, pulling up your recommendation on the plan, it was indicated on there that the plan had staff approval. I don't believe anything has changed since this morning from that approval that would cause many more concern than you would have had 2 months ago or 5 weeks ago.
Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was developed with the assumption that the additional information was going to be received in time for review for this meeting.
We disagree on that, whether or not it's in time for this meeting or between this meeting and the city council.
There was some information.
We can go on.
There was some information that we had not received yet. I know that our Public Works Director had not received some information from the IDOT. At least the engineer who's working on this project hadn't received that information, and it was critical because the interstate does influence the amount of runoff that does go through this particular parcel. And from at least what I had heard as a result of that meeting this morning, none of that information had been brought forward to our Public Works Director or our city engineer, and those calculations are needed. So I guess that's sort of where it stands, is an incomplete information scenario right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in a sidebar conversation with the chair and also with the Director of Community Development, I think the issue before the commission is really 3 parts. The first is the applicant feels there's an undue delay in the process and would like to have it moved along. I recognize that and would like to try and accommodate that if we can. Then there are 2 issues with the replatting itself. The first is whether the commission will be pleased or be willing to accept the relocation of the easement. There's some concern on the part of the city that neighbors we want to make sure the neighbors have adequate notice as to what's going on, and if they don't object to it, that can be handled by the commission. If the neighbors are here, we can take that testimony today. The third, or actually the second technical issue with this, is whether the easement as redesigned would be in the right place, and then whether it would have the right capacity. The capacity issue is really a question for the engineers, and generally the commission has accepted the recommendation of the engineer on that. If the commission is okay with the general configuration of the easement, there may be some minor changes that might still be made between now and the time it goes to the council in order to accommodate the capacity issue. I think staff's a little nervous about approving final design without knowing for sure the capacity issue, but we also recognize that this has been pending for some time and the applicant would like to do the work and get the matter redrawn. Perhaps the commission would be willing to take the public input, make a decision on whether the movement of the easement is acceptable, and then make a recommendation to the council subject to the capacity issue getting resolved between now and the time of the council meeting. If they can't reach agreement on capacity, then have the matter come back to P&Z.
It would seem to me that since we have the people here and we've given them notice, this might be an opportunity for at least to proceed, take the matter under advisement, and listen to their input, and inconvenience the applicant and the neighbors as least as possible. If that's all right with the other members of the commission, okay. So let's call that matter up, which is case 06060, Kettleson second edition, submitted by Rob Cusack. And I'm going to ask the staff to give their report, and then we will proceed at that point. So,
Recognizing capacity issue still with staff.
recognizing that we are not in a position to rule on the capacity issue, and if we do go forward, it will be subject to staff's approval. Is that acceptable? Greg?
Acceptable to staff.
Okay, Greg, you want to go ahead and give the staff report then?
Mr. Chairman, the area involved here is off of I-74, and this is the lot right here. Fair lane running right here, metal lane running right here, and at the intersection of these two, there's a drive that comes down here to the house in question. Presently, the area is under this platting designation. This is Kittleson's first edition, and as you can see, there's an easement that drives right through a portion of this lot here. And there's a drainage way that comes up through here and drains this way. There is another drainage way over here that drains some of the back of these lots down toward this lot 1, and there's an intake here, and there's one over here. Petitioner wants to replat this in a manner that takes the easement existing on this lot and changes its pathway and brings it further away from the house, actually taking the channel where the water goes and bringing it over in this manner to connect back up with this portion of the easement that goes into the drainage culvert. The grading plan shows, as I had up here earlier, at least the erosion control plan, shows some of the topography in the area. And as you can see, there's a great deal of rather steep areas back in this portion of the drainage way here, and then in this area there's somewhat of another area that could form up and be used, or I shouldn't say be used, but basically the water would be coming down this way and then draining into a culvert here. But essentially you've got two different areas where the water's draining. One over here, which some of the neighbors bordering this area are concerned about, and then the one on the Cusacks property here, which is the easement we're talking about having moved. Staff would recommend approval with the necessary oversight, though, of the engineering department and any other departments needing to be involved to verify the necessary passage of this, or actually bringing it before City Council and making any recommendation for this particular project. I would ask, are there any questions?
Any questions from the commission?
Hey, Greg, I have a couple. Just trying to read this drawing. We're flowing from bottom of the page to the top of the page. Is that correct? That's the way the water would tend. The easement, the new easement.
Mm-hmm.
I guess does the hillside get higher as you move to the right side of the page? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, this area up here is higher than this area over here, where or at least where the existing easement or water goes through. So these neighboring properties are somewhat higher, but they have some area that falls off. The one area, or I should say the one lot here, over in this part of what is Kittleson's first edition, this falls off, and they have a balcony that comes out and back, and this area here is lower in terms of its elevation down here, and then where the water comes in, and then you have this area here, which is rather narrow, where the water comes in here into this grate from south of the property here, the Cusack property.
I see. So we actually have water flowing from both sides.
You have water flowing from, I believe, the south, and then also you have water that is running off the backs of these properties here as well, and maybe some water coming off of the Cusack's property that also flows in this direction.
Greg, why don't you point to the 36-inch culvert that is on the west side? You'll have to go to the top of the, right there.
Right here.
There's also a 30-inch culvert on the eastern side. You want to point to that, Greg?
That'd be right in here.
Right now, there are some flows that go through both culverts.
Okay. Thank you. What type of, how much or what kind of construction has to be done Is this grading, tree removal? What has to be done to accomplish this?
Well, we already have some tree removal that's already taken place on site and grading at this present time, and that's part of the process right now that it's already underway. There also have to be maybe some fill areas or moving around certain types of soil to get the necessary design in place. So it's not simply about, it's about maybe, taking this and rechanneling it, if you will.
Okay.
It's about also what happens when the final product is there and what does it do to the neighboring properties, and that's what we don't know. The fact that also this site is taking in water that is not its own effectively, and we have to look at the best drawings or the most recent calculations coming from the state level in order to see if this design will actually do what it's supposed to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Robin?
This design is intended to reduce the runoff onto the property to the northeast?
No, it's not intended to reduce. It's intended to basically rechannel the water. In other words, the existing ditch is coming closer and closer to the existing house. It's being eroded away and coming closer, and I believe there's a carport that's in jeopardy at this point in time.
Will this plan keep the water on the present property owner's property more than it did before?
Is there any detention associated with the regrading of the ground?
No, there's no detention unless it's after the fact, and what I mean by that is if the downstream system cannot take it, then it's going to back up and detain at that point. And those are the calculations I'd like to look at, or a part of them, to make a determination as to what actually is going to happen.
So the purpose of this is just to remove it from the east side of his present house that is presently causing a problem?
Right, that's exactly correct.
And if that can be done without interfering with neighbor's property?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the commission as to what's going on? Seeing none, anyone in the audience want to address us in connection with this matter?
Mr. Chairman, just
Rob?
briefly, I've already made my comments for the committee, or the commission, excuse me, but I would just inform the commission that Mr. Chris Thompson from Thompson Engineering, who has been engineering the project for me, is seated here, and I would be in a good position to answer some of the commission's questions that were just presented to staff. Thank you.
I'm Carol Hayes. I'm lot 3 on my property.
Ms. Hayes, I'm going to ask you if you
Yeah.
would go back to the podium.
Sorry.
I think,
That way you'll be seen on Channel 9 when they show it, and then you'll be heard as well.
Okay, my name is Carol Hayes. I'm 1520 Parklane Drive. I live in the middle of the block where the steep ravine goes down the hill to the Cusacks. Can you hear me?
Just pull it down.
towards you a
Just a
little
little
Okay.
bit. Just dangle it down. There you go.
thank you very much.
Okay, I have concerns, and I'm not here to throw roadblocks at the Cusacks. I really feel sorry for them. They should not be having the problem that they do, and the sooner this is resolved, the better off we're all going to be. However, the redirection of the stream includes a small berm that's constructed at the base of our hill, and that berm will seriously impact the rain runoff drainage. It concentrates the water that will increase the velocity, and hence it will cause even more significant erosion. We get water from the apartment building, the lot south of the Cusacks, and then succeedingly down the ravine. And that little V will make matters a lot worse. Now currently there's a broad flat area at the base of the ravine. And that area quite adequately has always absorbed the rainwater. Even in 1990 when we had those 2 500-year floods, the water sat for a while, but most of it was absorbed into the ground and very little of it was actually diverted to the culvert. But that very space is where the creek is supposed to be. When we moved into the house in 1972, the creek ran at the bottom, of the ravine. When Al Kittleson bought the property from the state of Iowa, he diverted it to run close to the A-frame. And that's why they're having the problems they are. Now, I was wondering if the creek couldn't just go back to where it was, at the bottom of the ravine, surrounded by that flat area. The berm is what's troublesome. That's what's going to cause all of us along the eastern side of the lot problems. It seems to me it would simplify the Cusacks project if they didn't have to construct that berm. So that's where the creek was originally. Anyway, I hope that this project is put on hold because we can't deny the people who might be affected by this an opportunity to inspect it or object to it. But I think most people would be happy if the flat area were kept intact without that second little berm, and then we wouldn't have the problems with the erosion when we have rain. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I guess there's a request to increase the volume on the mics.
Pardon me?
I guess there's a request.
Oh, okay. Pull the mic up so you talk into it anyway. I don't.
Okay. My name is Tim Dreher, and I live at 1135 Parklane Drive, which is the lot right to the northeast there, which the main drainage would pass through, does currently, and still would after the project would be complete. We definitely show our favor to the project. Currently, the back yard to our property is basically marshland. We cannot use it. It's very tough to maintain. You take a lawnmower and you just kind of sink into the ground right now. And I strongly believe berming that up in the back, where the Cusacks are talking about, would definitely relieve us of that issue. Because we have talked about it ourselves, of putting up a berm in the back of our property to try to get away from that. We have the small drainage ditch on the side of the home, which really at this point does not have much water running through it at all. I just cannot see that there would be that much drainage running into that small tube, the 30-inch tube there, even after they move the drainage over. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to say that we are definitely 100% behind this project.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address us in connection with it? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Chris Townsend with Townsend Engineering. I'd like to address a couple issues. That definitely the intention of this project was not to change in any way the drainage through this property. So obviously the idea was to help the current situation with the deck, the carport, before it falls into the stream. Right now that stream doesn't even follow, the whole south end doesn't even follow the easement. So it's not in the easement anyway. And the second berm that the adjacent homeowner was talking about, it exists right now. And we do show it up close to the east property line. And when talking to engineering today, realize that we should probably steepen up our slopes and move that over. But it does, and it's hard to tell with all those lines, but it does have a 2% slope on it, which is what we're trying. That was the goal of that, to actually get that water to move through there. As you just heard, that it basically sits there. It's kind of a swampland. That drainage area that goes to that culvert on the northeast corner is less than an acre, and that's being very conservative. I'd be surprised if there's ever water that you can see going through there. It's just not a big drainage area. Majority of the water currently, and we're not changing it at all, goes through over to the 36-inch pipe. So we do realize we need to get the drainage calculations done. I was hoping to have those done. We were waiting for some information from the DOT, which doesn't exist. So unfortunately, we're going to have to do a little more legwork, and that was kind of the delay. And I just personally just didn't have time to get it done before today. So that was my fault for causing that. But otherwise, that definitely is, we're not trying to impact the neighbors, and we're definitely willing to work with them, work with the city, and get this resolved here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Remaley, and I am a homeowner on Lot 5, I believe, on the corner of Parklane and Fairlane. And we approve of the plan that's in place by our neighbors. Just by removing the trees, by opening up the canopy, it has dried out the area around there already, just by what they're starting to do. And the secondary drainage area, there's never anything in it. I look at it every day. You know, it's dry 99% of the time. There's no activity there. As far as any other homeowners having a problem, I don't really see any erosion down there or anything that's really taking place in that manner. You know, everything seems to be fine. But whatever they seem to be having, you know, done here, it's going to be good for all of us in this area. If for no other reason, we have noticed a dramatic drop in just the mosquito population since it dried out in that area. You know, our patio looks out to this area, and you know, we just notice things like this. And this is just something that's just started, and it can't do anything but get better. And the water that does flow through that, on any given day, no matter how hard it rains, it comes off the interstate, it isn't that much. You know, it's not like, you know, it's like Hoover Dam or anything through there. You know, it's, you know, I'm sure the city has concerns, but as, you know, for waiting for information from the IDOT, that could be a while. I don't believe they have any plan, you know, that's solid in place. So as homeowners in the area, you know, we approve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see anyone. Any further questions from the commission or concerns?
I'd just like to ask a question about the berm. The berm is existing. There's not another berm that's going to be installed. Is that correct?
I think you probably want to defer to our city engineer on that. I believe that the berm may be shifting, but I'm not exactly certain as to its location.
As I read the plans, the berm is going to shift over. In other words, they're going to rechannelize the existing channel, move it further to the east, and subsequently move the berm over too.
Any other questions? What's your pleasure? Keeping in mind that I think we have to defer to as far as the calculations are concerned, and to the staff as far as the effect of that berm on on the neighbors' yards, et cetera. So,
Mr. Chairman, can we approve this subject to final review by engineering?
I think we can approve the final plat before us, but subject, as you said, subject to final engineering calculations and approval before it goes to City Council. And if that were your pleasure, someone could make a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number 06060, Kettleson, second edition, subject to staff comments and engineering review.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.